Hi knitters, welcome to episode 133 of the Knitty McPurly podcast. I'm your host, Devin. You can find me here every Sunday on YouTube for this podcast. I'm also on Instagram as Knitty McPurly, and I am at KnittyMcPurly.com. And if you want to email me, I'm Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com. I got a lot of emails recently, and I want to talk to you about those. If you are new and you have not subscribed, please do that. Click the thumbs up. It rained all week here, and so I pretty much sat at the pool with my kids and knit all week in the rain. Sometimes literally in the rain. So I had like a raincoat, I had the umbrella up, and I was holding an umbrella while the kids swam in 65-degree water. Actually, I don't know what the temperature of the water was, but it was 65 degrees in the air. At times, like the yarn wouldn't slide because it was so humid, but whatever. It's all good. The sun is shining now, so pretty happy about that. And I couldn't sleep last night. I haven't slept well lately, so I was up and I got this podcast all planned out, so it all works together. Check out my new cup. Guess what it's from? Let's see if I can show it to you. Florida. This cup was sent to me. It's hard to see with the glare, but it has all things Florida on it. And it was sent to me by my wonderful friend, Sherry, who lives in Florida. Thank you so much, Sherry. Isn't it so svelte? Like, I just feel so clever holding it in my hand. I got my fizzy water in there because I started drinking coffee at like 3 o'clock this morning, and so I had to stop. I'm kind of past the coffee now. I feel like I'm not like crazy, but yeah, I shouldn't have any more. Before I get into things, I want to tell you that Gigi and I went to Hobby Lobby about a week ago. What were we getting? I think it was a big crochet hook because we didn't have one big enough for the super bulky yarn. And I found all of this cute stuff. I'm just going to be putting it up while I'm talking. Hobby Lobby is a Christian company, and they have a ton of cute knitting stuff. So if you have one near you, go and pick up one of these things. I used a lot of restraint and I didn't buy anything, but I have been looking at the pictures and thinking, like, if I were to go back, which one of these things could I not live without? Charlotte definitely voted on the sloth yarn bowl. She was like, Mom, we definitely need to have this in our house. But I live in a house full of breakers, so I don't know if a ceramic yarn bowl is in my future. Okay, progress and shop news. There is a lot happening in my small little corner of the internet. Today is the last day to get 20% off Dubrovnik DK yarn and the faux set pattern and the We Faux Set pattern with the code FAUXETALONG 2023. Today is it. Last day for that sale. So if you want it, go get it right now because it won't work tomorrow. And the reason for that is because the Faux Set Along ends on Friday on June 30th is the end of the Faux Set Along. So if you're working on your faux set and you're trying to be a part of this very fun knit along, get your picture taken and post it onto Instagram with the hashtag FAUXETALONG 2023 by Friday, midnight on Friday. I'll choose the winner over the weekend and I will announce it on next week's podcast. The winners. I'm going to choose 3 winners. So just to refresh your memory, in case you forgot, the rules are you had to knit a faux set in this period of time from whenever we started, which was I think April, until Friday, June 30th. You have to knit a faux set in that time. You have to post a picture of it finished on Instagram because I will only be counting the finished sweater pictures. And if you happen to post more than one, I will count that as only one entry. The way to get a second entry was to use Knitty McPurly yarn. So that will get you a second entry. If you're not on Instagram and you don't want to do it that way, just email it to me. A bunch of people have already done that. And so I have my 2 pops of pictures that I will be compiling into one list of finishers and then randomly with the online random number generator, choosing 3 winners. So it's not based on ability or color choice or whatever. It's if you finished, it's a totally random thing. And then I'll be notifying you over Instagram or email, probably depending on how you put your entry in, and then I'll announce it on the podcast too. So not sure which one of those things I'll do first. Probably podcast first, and then I'll get in touch with you. Okay, that's all I wanted to say about that. July is a big month for me because I always do 4th of July yarn. I do patriotic yarn on the 4th of July, and this year I'm going to be doing a sock set. So it's a 100-gram skein of the Frankfurt fingering with a 20-gram mini for cuffs, heels, and toes if you want, or just toes and heels, or however you like to do it with your 20-gram minis. But they're going to be very patriotic. I did one a couple of years ago, and this one is going to be reminiscent of that one. I don't like to do just red, white, and blue. Lots of dyers do that, and they do it really well. I like to incorporate other patriotic colors, like the color of the Constitution and the color of military uniforms, and those colors play into my thinking too when I dye my patriotic yarn. But those are going to be available. Now, July 4th is a Tuesday, so I'm probably going to do the July 4th yarn that weekend before Saturday, which is the 1st, I think, through Tuesday. If they last that long, we'll see. But there's that. Another thing I decided, because up until now, I've kind of been doing newsletters as I need to do them. And so I decided to publish my newsletter on Fridays. And if I do it every Friday, then people will know that they're getting my newsletter, because when I send them out just as needed, which sometimes isn't very much, people are like, am I on your list? I don't know did I miss one? Because they're afraid maybe it went to their spam folder. And I think we can avoid that if the newsletter is just expected. And that way, newsletter subscribers hear about shop updates and whatnot before the podcast watchers. That's kind of, I feel like if you're willing for me to visit your inbox on a weekly basis, you should get the deal first. So if you want to sign up for my newsletter, go to my website and there's a little box that pops up and you can put your email in there. If you closed that and then later said, oh gosh, I want to go and sign up for the newsletter, use this little hang down tab right here and you can sign up. Just put your email in there and you're good to go. Okay, so July 11th, which is the Tuesday exactly after July 4th, is my 4-year shop-iversary. 4 years. So I started the podcast in 2016. So that's like the beginning of the business, but my shop, my online KnittyMcPurly.com started on July 11th of 2019. So we're going to have a shop-iversary sale that weekend, the weekend before that. The 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th is going to be my shop-iversary sale. It's going to be a modest sale, not a, crazy, the deal is so good that it stresses everybody out. It'll be a modest sale. But I'm going to have a special yarn release. I'm going to have a shop-iversary collection premiering, and it's a one-time collection that I'll be dyeing up for this. I'm going to have it in the Frankfurt fingering and the Dubrovnik DK in both 100-gram skeins and 50-gram skeins. So, if you wanted it with less yarn and at a cheaper price point, getting the 50-gram skeins is a great way to do that. All of the skeins in the collection will coordinate together, and those are going to be available then. So I'm working on the July 4th sock set and the shop-iversary collection, and it's going to be really fun. So then after that, Sunday, July 16th, which is the following weekend, it's just one thing after another. Like, it's just going to be nonstop fun over here at Knitty McPurly. Sunday, July 16th, the Knitty McPurly Advent calendars will go on sale for pre-order. So I'm going to have a limited number of them. Last year, I made 1 million, and I don't need to make 1 million. So this year, I have less. They are going to be DK, and the theme is classic Christmas. So when I was thinking about the theme, and I was thinking about just plain classic Christmas, of course, if you are a fan of The Office, as I am, you're probably thinking of Stanley's Christmas rant. Does anybody remember Stanley's Christmas rant? Holiday wishes. We know exactly what holiday you're referring to. I've been here 18 years and have suffered through some weird thematic Christmases. A Honolulu Christmas, a Pulp Fiction Christmas, a Muslim Christmas, Moroccan Christmas, Mo-Rocca Christmas. Christmas is Christmas is Christmas is Christmas. I don't want no Kwanzaa wreath. I don't need a dreidel in my face. That's its own thing. I want Christmas. Just give me plain baby Jesus lying in a manger Christmas. So that's the theme. It's Christmas is Christmas is Christmas is Christmas. Plain old baby Jesus. So do you remember that? If you need to go watch it, I totally understand. Just type in Stanley Hudson and Stanley Hudson Christmas rant will come up and you can watch it all on your own. I changed it a little. I didn't change it. I kept it as it was, but I edited some things out because they didn't apply. But yeah, anytime a movie quote or an office quote applies in our house, or an Andy Griffith quote, we're on top of it. So the theme is classic Christmas. The colors are classic/modern Christmas. That's what I like. It's going to be $125 and more limited quantities than last year, but it's not the kind of thing that's going to sell out immediately. I hope and imagine that it will sell out within about a week. That's my hope for that. So if you want one, sign up for the newsletter so you can go get one at the time. Sunday, July 16th, which is in like 3 weeks, I think. Many of you have asked me about the sock rulers because they're gone. Just who knew? They flew off the shelves. So I have an order in for more, but I don't know when they will be here. But again, sign up for the newsletter if you want one because that's how you'll find out about it first. Another exciting thing that happened is I finished writing the Diggory Tea pattern and I sent it to the tech editor. So that is great because it took me longer than it should have. It really didn't need to take that long. I'm just really busy. Like the transition from school to summer is, I don't know why it just knocks me down every year, but I just get like bowled over every June by the transition. I think it's because, just homeschooling switches to swim season and it's a very different thing. And anyway, I just got so busy with dyeing yarn that pattern writing kind of got pushed to the wayside, but that pattern is now done and it's with the tech editor. So hopefully I will hear back from her sometime next week. Don't worry, I have not sent out the email to the testers yet. I'll do that once she and I are done, the editor and I are done working through it. And then I'll get an email out to everyone saying, if you want to test this pattern, let me know and jump on that bandwagon if you want. It's a great summer knit. It is not very many skeins. I think, I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say that most sizes use 2 or 3 skeins of yarn. Maybe the last 2 sizes use 4 skeins, but it just does not use that much yarn. It's a great summer knit, miles and miles of stockinette for poolside knitting. Yeah, so that's coming up. And that'll be a fairly quick test knit. We'll probably do a 4 to 5 week test knit. And then it'll be out for you guys to knit anytime you want. Okay, I have also been working on my Awaken sweater. And I've actually gotten quite a bit done because of the pool. Okay, so I don't remember where I was last time. I think I had not yet done I was just below the lace. I'm pretty sure that's where I left off. So you can see I did this row of crosses. I did the whole body in stockinette and I have just started the bottom round of crosses here. And then there's a few more rounds of green and then the ribbing. And then I'll be doing the sleeves and it's so fun, you guys. I feel like I'm knitting someone else's pattern. Like I wrote this pattern, but it was long enough ago that I don't really remember the details of it. So it has been so fun and look how beautiful it is. So once again, this is the Frankfurt Fingering Knitty McPurly and the green is the Meadow colorway. And this beautiful, let's Let's see if you can see the speckles in there. This beautiful color is the June colorway in the Frankfurt fingering, and it is still available in the shop. I will dye more if I run out up until the end of June. So I think there's actually still a few skeins of May left. Actually, I think there's one skein of May left. And April sold out. So moving on, July is actually up too, but it's a black and white picture for now. So for those of you who love a surprise, feel free to order that ahead of time. But I will show that, let's see. Yeah, it'll be July next week, so I'll show that on next week's podcast. Okay, so this happened. Remember last week and my knitting fantasies when I showed those crochet sweaters? I had these delusions of grandeur thinking, I'm gonna try this. Like, I'm just gonna jump in and try crocheting a sweater. Just because I thought it would be a fun diversion, you know, just a project to have in a bag that I could pick up here and there whenever I felt like it. So I bought the Fawning Over You sweater, which is this one. And let me show you the colors that I picked. I think the colors are awesome. I picked Fantine for the mains color. So the blue, what's blue in her sweater would be the Fantine, and this is worsted weight, the Warsaw worsted. Wait a sec, I wrote down how I wanted to do the colors. It's on one of these pages. Okay, so color B, which is the color in her sweater called Natural, I'm gonna do in Bougie. Color C, which in her sweater is like the orangish, I'm gonna do in Roxette. And color D, which she doesn't use very much at all. It's a light gray. Okay, so it's, you see where it looks like a light blue? Where it looks like light blue, that's color D, and I'm gonna use Trinket. Aren't those just so fiery, warm colors? I just love these together. I thought they were so, so cool. So, but don't get too excited. I need to prep you for the wet blanket that I'm about to throw over this sweater. So I bought the pattern and I did the ribbing, and I have a little video that I'm gonna put in here to tell about what's annoying about this sweater. So the first annoying thing is I've introduced too many new skills. Duh. I mean, I know how to crochet, and I could easily crochet this as a hat if it was not color work. But color work is new, and a sweater is new, and this stitch pattern is new. So the stitch pattern that she is using for this is called Split Single Crochet, and it is also known as the waistcoat stitch. So this stitch is just a little bit annoying, and I made a little video here to show you why it's annoying. So go ahead and watch that right now. So as you can see, I have not gotten very far on this sweater pattern. I had a lot of fun. This is my beginning of round right here. I had a lot of fun making this neckband, which you do like this as a long strip, and then you join it together. And then I picked up a round to start crocheting the sweater. Now, the way that you normally crochet is like through this gap right here, and you go under both legs, and then you hook it, and there is your single crochet. That's how you would normally do it. But the thing about this sweater that's annoying, and the designer acknowledged that it was annoying, but she said you get used to it, basically. Instead of going in right there where it's kind of obvious, you go in between the two legs of this thing here that looks like a knit stitch. So you go in there like that, and on the back, did I do it right? Hold on. Yeah. And then on the back, it looks like this, where you've got the split here and the bar over the top. Now, I am definitely not an expert, But then you do, wait, no, I did it wrong. Stop. No, I did it right. Go in between the legs of the stitch and then, whoops, pull it through, and then you do it like that. And what you end up with is a stitch that looks like a knit stitch. So I don't even know if that's the right color I'm supposed to be doing there. I just did this for demonstration purposes, but maybe that helps you see my annoyance. Like, I just want to go in the easy place. And at first I was unable to go into that at all when I first did it because I was doing it too tight. So I eased up on the tension and I loosened it up, and now it's doable. Oh wait, yeah, in between the two legs right there. So you see, that's the easy spot on the next stitch. It's this difficult spot right there that you have to kind of finagle it in. I don't know. So I'm torn on whether to persevere at this thing that's really 2 bumps in skill above where I was, not just 1 bump. Because if I were to set this aside and not do it, what I would do instead is a crochet sweater in 1 color. Because color work in crochet is more complicated than knitting, I feel like. Maybe just because I'm used to knitting. Might not really be more difficult. It might just be more difficult for me. But what I would do next is crochet a sweater in 1 color. And then I would try to crochet a sweater that's color work. Just like knitting, you want to do it in 1 color first. But this is classic Devin. I got to tell you, the very first time I ever ran a race, it was a marathon. That's just what I do. And I don't hear that and think, oh, Devin's so awesome. That's not what this is about. I do it badly, but I'm okay with doing things, I think I did it in like 5 hours. Like it's not like I'm qualifying for Boston or anything. It's just a sweater. So persevere and, try and jump that hoop, or set it aside until I've jumped through the subsequent hoops. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But anyway, that's where I am on that. I just thought that would be something fun. Okay, topic of the week. This week we're going to talk about yarn bleeding, because this is a thing. Sometimes yarn bleeds. And I had a lovely podcast watcher named Julia contact me because she crocheted this amazing blanket. And it is gorgeous and it is huge. And part of the reason why it's so beautiful is because of the multicolored aspect of it, where they're juxtaposed with the white. And that's a part of why this looks so great. So Julia writes to me. Now, I did not dye this yarn. It was funny. She wrote that in the subject line. My yarn is bleeding, not yours. Like, don't have a heart attack. It's not your yarn. I'm having this problem and I need you to help me. She said, oh, Devin, I don't know who to ask for help. I crocheted a blanket of 2x2 squares for my granddaughter's high school graduation. That's so sweet. Got it done in time to give it to her, but I did not get it washed and blocked. It bled. So here's the picture of it. I'll put up some pictures of the bleeding so that you can see why she was like cringing over it. I don't know what to do, she says. I'll try and get a picture of the bleeding. It looks like it was more areas which were touched by the square that could have bled. Anyway, I would appreciate any ideas that you have. Now, I responded to her saying, it's important to understand that the way that dye works is that it is activated through acid and heat. Most dyers use citric acid, but any acid will do. Some dyers use vinegar, I think, but citric acid and heat are what makes dye stick to yarn. In the absence of those things, the dye should wash out. So we went back and forth a few times because she was like, I want to know exactly how to fix this problem. She says, I have a follow-up question. I used wool wash with color catcher sheets in cold water. When you say keep washing it, what do you mean? In cold water or lukewarm, and for how long? And you think the color bleeding will come off? And I said, yes, use cold water because you don't want to fix it. Heat, if there's any acid, that is on that white square, if any acid got on there in any way, whether there was any left in the dyed yarn or for some reason that white had been treated that way, we don't know. I mean, unless you dyed it yourself, you don't really know. So don't apply any heat. And I said, let me know. Like, I want to know how this story ends. So theoretically, heat plus acid is what makes the dye stick. In the absence of that, the dye should just wash out. So she said, okay, in the washing machine, on delicate, with wool wash and color catcher sheets. And I've never used color catcher sheets, but I imagine it's just a thing to literally catch the color. It just grabs it in the water. In the absence of those, I guess it could attach somewhere else, or it would just go down the drain. But it seems like something you would want to try. So I liked that she did that. I thought that was a great idea. And I said, yes, if it's superwash yarn, definitely all day long. If it was not superwash, definitely not in the washing machine. You could do it by hand. It would be difficult on something that large. You'd need like a bathtub or something. So here is how the story ended. She says, well, Devin, it is so much better. I kept the cold water soak going for what would be 5 washer loads with just a soak cycle. I added more and more color catcher sheets as old water was drained and new added. All of the marks came off except 2 of the original ones, but they are so much less obvious. And I have a seam to mend. So in the washing, one of the seams came out, which is really good to know now, because if you're giving this to an 18-year-old, you're going to want it to be durable. She says, thank you for your generosity and excellent advice. It gave me courage to do the unthinkable. Good. I'm so glad. My granddaughter came by and is very happy and loves it. So it is on its journey to dry, and I will make the minor repair, and off it goes to its beautiful owner. It's so nice to have a lifeline such as you in this situation. I have learned so many things that will shape my future yarn adventures. I'm so glad. That's one of the great things about the internet. I think the internet is largely, it's Pandora's box, but there's so much good that comes out of it too. And the fact that we can talk about things like this and interact with each other, because if you're like me, and I know a lot of you have knit groups, but just most of your real life friends are not knitters. And that is, why do I even keep them around? I don't know. So I thought I would tell you a little bit about the dye process. There's a lot of videos about this on the internet, and so many of you might already know, so I'll just go over it real quick. Basically, we start by prepping the yarn, putting it on a zip tie or something to hold it together while it has freedom to move. Then we soak it. I like to soak my yarn in a citric acid solution because it just gets more of that acid in the yarn. You need to have acid so that the dye will take. And different dyers use different things in this part of the process. I used to use Synthropol, which is a special kind of a soap that would get off any debris or whatever that needed to come off the yarn. But I found that it was kind of unnecessary because the yarn that I get from the mill is already pristine. So I don't really need it. And also it smells like death. Like I just despise the smell of it. Just, ugh. So I was happy to get rid of that part of the procedure. And then the dye is applied, and that can be any number of ways depending on how you want the yarn to look in the end. But acid and heat, that's how you get the dye to stick. In the absence of that, the dye is just going to wash off, and it might catch, because yarn it might have little fibers that stick out. So it can be caught, but that's not the same as being dyed. And that's what Julia found out with the continued washing, and the color catchers were grabbing that dye. Because hand-dyed yarn, it might bleed. That might happen, especially if it is super saturated, like the ones that bled for Julia. They were very saturated. So then after the yarn is dyed, we let it cool completely, and cold water and wool wash, it gets washed, it gets rinsed, it goes through the spin dryer, and it hangs to dry. So this process can take a few days because, usually we're doing big lots of yarn. But the more saturated it is, the more likely it is to bleed. It should not come off on your hands as you're knitting. Sometimes that does happen, especially if it's a very, very saturated color, but that should not happen. But when you wash it, it might bleed a little bit. And I wonder how useful it would be to use those color catchers when washing it for the first time, just even like in a bucket or a dish pan or whatever that you use to wash your to block your sweaters or your garments or whatever. I wonder, does anybody have enough experience with color catchers that you could speak intelligently on that? If you do, leave me a comment because I'm curious. I've never used them before. Something is going on in here. Probably pollen. I don't know. I don't see the haze, the Canadian wildfire haze anymore. So I don't know. Anyway, I thought it was pretty bold of Julia to be willing to dive this deep into fixing this problem. Some people would have just left it, and that would have been fine because it's just knitting, or in this case, it's just crocheting. But I admire Julia's tenacity and perseverance to stick with it to the end and have that seam turn up and just be willing to fix it and block it and just make it look perfect for her granddaughter. I love that. This is a topic I've been thinking about lately because of my kids and their swimming. There's a thing in the culture now. You know how it used to be where adults would get really angry at like kids' sporting events and they would yell to try to get the kids to motivate the kids, and that wasn't good. But kind of the pendulum has kind of swung the other way now, and the attitude is whatever you do is fine. And it's all fine. It's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. But that's taken as if, well, we don't care if we win. Whatever, it doesn't matter. And I told my kids, like with swimming, try to win. Try to get across the pool and not get DQ'd. Try your absolute hardest. And if you do that and you come in dead last, that's okay. Totally fine, because you did your best, like you tried your hardest. And we'll watch the video and we'll say, how can we work hard to do better? And how can we be as good as we can possibly be? And if we get there and we're dead last, fine. But it's that push to be the best. Do you know? Put your best, push to be your best. And her tenacity and seeing that through really made me think more about that topic. Okay, moving on to the comment section. Like I said at the beginning, I got a lot of comments over email. A lovely podcast watcher named Barbara, hi Barbara, sent me an email asking if she could knit the Audrey sweater with cotton. And I said, I absolutely think you could. I think that would be a great mix if cotton is something that you like to knit with. Personally, I don't knit with a lot of cotton because it hurts my hands, but a cotton blend, I think might be a little bit different. Either a cotton wool blend or maybe a cotton linen blend. Linen might not be different on my hands, I don't know, but I think if I added wool in there, it would be good. And I said, yes, definitely go for it. So she responded saying, thank you so much for your response about the cotton yarn. I look so forward to your podcast. I wish it were on more often, but I know how much work it is and how busy you are, not only with your business, but also your family. My husband has been very ill and has begun dialysis 3 times a week. My knitting has gotten me through this serious depression. Thank you for you and your podcast. Thank you. God bless you and your loved ones. And I responded saying, I am so sorry that your husband has to go do dialysis. I imagine that is depressing because it takes so much time. And she said, yeah, he calls it his part-time job. But I'm so glad that Barbara has her knitting and that is getting her through this. Knitting is like that. It's like soup, you know? It's just that thing that makes you feel good. And then she said, I also made my first homemade bread because you talk about it. I would love to make a sourdough loaf. I understand that this is harder than a regular loaf. Now, you should understand, Barbara, that this is 100% Gigi that makes the bread. I do not make bread. But every time Gigi makes bread, it's great. And sourdough is finicky, but even though every week she says, oh, I don't think it turned out this week, I did this wrong, or I didn't leave this long enough, or whatever thing I was supposed to do to make it happy, I didn't do, and it's not happy. But it always comes out great. And you cut it and you put it in the toaster and you put butter on it, or better yet, honey butter, and life is good, right? So anyway, that is awesome. I loved hearing from Barbara. It's so great to hear heartwarming things like that, that, you know, knitting is just balm on your soul. I also got a message from Jennifer who says, go check out the podcast called Ruth Loves to Knit. Go check Ruth out. Apparently Ruth and her husband are Christian missionaries, and Ruth loves to knit. And her podcast looks to be about a little bit like close to my size. She's got a few more views than I do. So maybe Ruth, if you're out there, send people my way. And Pam recommended to me a podcast called A Lovely Yarn. Also a Christian homeschooler with a podcast. So it's great. Like the Christian knitters are out there, and we're starting to find each other, and it's just great. I also got a message from Tina. Hi, Tina. And she sent me this hat pattern because it's this woman whose name is Susan Gressman. She, I think, is doing a hat a month, and they are free downloads on Ravelry. And the June hat is a French bulldog, but it looks just like a Boston Terrier. So that's why she sent it to me. Thank you so much for this, Tina. I'm including it here because of email, but this is also going to double as my knitting fantasy for the week. So here is our knitting fantasy. And Susan has a bunch of other dog hats if you're interested in those, and I will link to her Ravelry page below. Okay. On last week's video, Jean Ellis said, LOL, the story about the woman offering the key to her house made me recall a story from a friend who was stationed in Germany. As they looked at houses for rent, she noticed several had a tiny room with a toilet and a sink very close to the front door. When she asked why a toilet room was so close to the front door, the realtor said it was for the men off the street, workmen, postmen, or others. It seems that to refuse someone access to a toilet if they asked fell under refusing to render aid to the injured in Germany. Well, that is just the greatest thing ever. I wish we had that. I think my husband might move out. I don't see him going in for that at all. He was just raised differently. But my German heritage just says yes to that. I'd love that idea. I would absolutely have one of those on my house if that was a thing that we did here. Even if it wasn't, I still would. Sarah Nuggebauer, hi Sarah, said, as a person who can crochet a granny stripe blanket and nothing else, my mind was blown by what Gigi just whipped up. And you'll notice I have a few Gigi creations up here on my shelf. She is a delight. Gigi is a delight, and she's amazing, and so is Alexis. Both of them were busy today, so I don't have them, but in my So Here's What Happened section, I will be showing you the progress that they made. Barb2083 says, oh my goodness, it seems that Gigi is following her mom's footsteps. She's amazing. I'll be watching out for her crochet patterns. And Barb is the Barb of Woolen Works Designs, and she said, I'm so glad you love your bag, Barb. It's my favorite bag. I love it, and I have a couple of bags, but this one is my favorite. I don't know if Barb has any more bags in her shop. I noticed that they've been flying off the shelf, but maybe she'll restock so that you can get one too, because it is amazing. Oh, and she told me, is it in here? Yes. She said, I'm glad you like your bag. That pocket inside is meant for glasses, but I'm going to have to make them big enough for a phone now. Great tip. And yes, the little yarn cozies are meant to keep your yarn cakes from going rogue. Oh, glasses are genius. I have this pair of kid scissors in there right now. But yeah, glasses is perfect. And it's got like a little pleat in it so that they pull out. No, that's just perfect. Anyway, love it. Okay, the Selfish Knitter says, I love your children's enthusiasm for crafting. This episode gave me so many laughs. moldy potato, septopus. Now, the thing about the septopus, and I know that Colleen is not as big a fan of Pixar movies as I am, but septopus is from Finding Dory. So I can't take credit for that. That's from a Pixar movie. Really, I mean, almost, if you walked through my house, we almost communicate in either Andy Griffith quotes, The Office quotes for the older crew, and if it's just me and my husband, Seinfeld quotes, but movie quotes, oh my gosh, all the time. And their enthusiasm for crafting does wane, which I'll be talking about more in a little bit. Julie Brown says, Devin, you are an awesome mom. Your kids are absolutely delightful. Well done. That's just how they are. I take no credit. Mary Thomas said, love this episode and all the positive stories. Derek Stallman says, the corn is very good. To avoid a hole when starting a new yarn, catch the new yarn on the last stitch of the round. Then your first stitch of the new color will have its little ladder to somewhat cover that hole. That is a great tip, and many of you said something similar to that. I actually had someone send me a video on Instagram where you're hooking the yarns together, the new yarn and the old yarn. But either way, if you catch that first yarn, I'm sorry, that's vague. If you catch your new yarn on the last stitch of your old yarn by just holding it to the back where it's just caught in there, you won't have the hole. Now, the reason I told Sherry that the holes were fictional is because in my mind, when you weave those ends in, the hole is gone. And someone commented, I think I have it here. I don't know. I have so many comments I want to read, and I'll probably end up saying it twice. But when you weave in the ends, just weave it the other way, which will the hole is gone and it'll disappear. Kara Overman says, I've been crocheting for 54 years, but knitting for only 3 years. My mother taught me when I was 9. She died 50 years ago when I was 13. This year, I made a chevron baby blanket because that's what she always had on her hook. Your girls are so much fun. I wish my daughter was interested in learning some yarny crafts. She enjoys the finished products. These things happen sometimes. The interest is like a fire, and then it fizzles out and they won't pick it up for a year or 2 or 3 or 5. And you just kind of wait it out. And someday, when they have children of their own, maybe not, they'll pick it up again. Yarn Chicken and boop says, love your girls' crocheted items. I've been crocheting so long, I don't remember how old I was when I learned. I'm only a fairly recent knitter. I also learned to crochet first. But Yarn Chicken says, I love crocheting blankets. I'll also crochet shawls. I just prefer knitted fabric for garments like hats and sweaters. Well, apparently even crocheters do too, because they're trying to make their crochet look like knit, which makes me say, why am I doing this? This is Tara, by the way. I also jumped on the podcasting bandwagon recently. Hi, Tara. What's your podcast? I would love to see it. Carol Alford says, hi, I'm Carol in North Carolina, and I've been enjoying your podcast for about a month. Today, I checked out 3 other knitters, and wouldn't you know that they have all made your faux set sweater. All different and all really cute. I've really enjoyed seeing your girls' crafting progress. How fun to include the youngsters. So many people have knit a faux set, and you're right, they're all different. People lengthen the body or they lengthen the sleeves. Some people make full-on long sleeves because they want to wear it in the winter. There's a million things that you can do. Susie1406 says, I love your podcasts, but man, you have the coolest kids. They have such fun personalities. I agree with you. They are really fun. Catherine Denny, 1717, says, my 15-year-old is into crochet at present. She's into making animals. She has a little friend at church who's going to be 8 soon. My daughter wants to make a crochet llama for her friend. Adorable. I love your podcast. It normally comes out Monday morning my time, but I save it to watch while I knit and wait outside my daughter's dance class on Tuesday afternoon. Awesome. Mandy Coker says, your girls are so sweet. I'm ready to meet your son now, LOL. I was thinking about this. I think that if he could crochet a gun or a knife or a computer part, he would be into it. But other than that, he's not so much into it. My grandson, who is 6, told me that he's ready to learn how to knit. That's awesome. I was 7 when I learned, and I'm 63 now. I'm a longtime knitter, and he has watched me knit since infancy. Well, I hope he picks it up. And if he sets it down for years, don't worry, because he'll know how to do it when the time comes. Ski Spinner says, I didn't read through the comments to see if anyone has said this, but when you weave in your ends, you need to weave them in going opposite directions so that the hole closes. If you weave them in going the same direction, you're still gonna have a hole. Totally good point. She says, I love the Shenandoah Fiber Festival. I lived in Nova. Nova stands for Northern Virginia, for those of you who aren't from here, until 2020. Now in Georgia, no yarn shop and no festival. Oh, that's the worst. And I always went to the Shenandoah Fiber Festival. It's just the right size. And the vendors there are warm and friendly, and there is a huge variety of vendors. I have gone back just for this and to attend with my friends. Hope to see you there. Well, I hope to see you there too, Ski Spinner. I hope to go. Like I said, I sent an inquiry and I never heard back. And I don't know why. You know, maybe they just put it on a spreadsheet and they contact everybody all at once. I don't know. But hopefully I will be there. Okay. All right. So here's what happened. Whew. Like I said, I got up at 3 this morning. And it took me about 2 hours to prep the podcast because there was a lot in it this time. It just had a lot. And it has been a busy week at my house because my husband got this award at work, which is long overdue. And he works in a place that does not give awards. I've never heard of anyone ever getting an award, but he got one because he's amazing. Like, he's just so smart and so hardworking and so capable. Like, whenever he does something really hard and amazing, we're all like, well, of course you did. That's just what you do. And he's like, nobody's even excited. But there was a monetary part to this award. And he has really wanted to upgrade the TV hole in our living room. And I don't care about the TV hole because I don't really watch TV very often. The TV is often on in the evenings, you know, like we have Andy Griffith on, or we'll watch a home improvement show or something. But so this week we upgraded the TV hole. So I'll just show you a couple pictures. Here it is. This is the before picture. This is what the TV hole looked like. So our house was built when TVs were such that they would go into a hole like this, you know, big and heavy and deep. But that didn't last very long. So we just had this kind of flat screen sitting in there, and it just looks dated and it's not cool and awesome like he would like. So here are a couple progress pictures, and it's not finished yet, but he basically is going to have the giant TV that makes him happy, and he's getting these cool speakers, and he's, you know, we're at Best Buy, and he's like, listen to this, what do you think? Like, does it sound better? Which is better? And I'm going, oh yeah, I don't know. They all sound the same to me. I don't care, but he cares, and he is just so happy about it. So I have now seen these new TVs. Our TV is old. I mean, we've had it forever, ever and ever, like 20 years. We've had it, not even 20 years. It was like cutting edge when we first got it. And now, I mean, it's just, it's old and it's fine. It still works. We'll keep it and put it in our workout room. But now I have been in Best Buy and I have seen 4K TVs. And I gotta tell you, if you are looking at my 45-year-old face on a 4K TV, there's nothing I can do to help you. Like, this is as good as I can make it. But just don't do that. Watch me on your phone where you just can't see it all that well. I know some of you are out there watching me on your 77-inch 4K TV. What does 4K even stand for? I don't know. I don't even know what it stands for, but I know what it is. And just don't do it. But anyway, moving on to so here's what happened story. I didn't have one sent to me, but that said, I read so many comments and there were so many stories in there that I felt like I had it. So here's what happened. And last week we showed you Sheldon. Do you remember Sheldon? I'll put up a little picture here so that you can remember Sheldon. Rawr. And we told you that she was making Nancy, exact same pattern and super bulky. Oh, There she is. Her head is, she put her eyes on, so she's kind of looking to the side. That's Nancy. And Nancy has one foot right now. And she got tired of it. Like second foot syndrome hit really hard. But look, it's almost like she's got a little nose there, right here. There's a little divot. Or I don't know, is it? I think that's a divot, or maybe, I don't know what it is. Isn't she so cute? So Nancy is Sheldon's mom. Don't make fun of her. She has one leg and that's just fine. Isn't that right, Nancy? So Gigi can't be on the podcast today because her BFF is out of town and Gigi is over there taking care of her dog. I hear Rocky at the door. So that is what we have from Gigi. Now, I thought Alexis, oh no, I remember we showed the little hat. Well, last week, there was a lot of crocheting that happened. And was it Father's Day? For Father's Day, okay. So speaking of TVs and our house, we don't have like real video games, like modern video games, because they all connect to the internet, and that's just the gateway to Pandora's box. And we just don't want that. So we have an old school Nintendo, okay? Like the kinds that I played when I was a kid. And we didn't have Nintendo at my house, but my friends all had it. And my husband played Super Mario Brothers all the time. So we play that now as a family, like it's a little family thing that we do. We all gather around, and I don't play because I don't like to play games, but my husband plays and all the kids play. So Alexis crocheted this mushroom, which is from Super Mario Brothers. No pattern. She just winged it, and it's an extra life. This is what the extra life looks like in Super Mario Brothers. So she crocheted this for my husband for Father's Day. Isn't it just perfect? It's so good. You can totally tell what it is. If you've ever played Super Mario Brothers, you know what that is. It's an extra life. So then she got crazy, okay? And then she made this, and I forget what this is. This is something from Super Mario Brothers. Like I said, I don't play, but it's got little feet, and it's a mushroom, and she did it differently than this one. I don't know, but it's so, so cute. So then she decided she was gonna make Mario. So what do? I do what all experienced adult knitters and crocheters do. I got on the internet and I looked at patterns for Mario. But anyone who can do this without a pattern is just gonna wing Mario. So she winged it. She was saying she felt like his mustache was a little too small, that he looks like Hitler. But look at his little hat. Isn't it so good? She just winged it. She even put, and like here for these, I think what she did is she just wove the red through. Like she just kind of wove it through enough times that it ended up looking like that. And then she put the yellow in. And he's so fat. Amazing, amazing. So that happened particularly last Sunday. Like everybody was hardcore crocheting last Sunday. And that was when I was working on my fawning over you sweater. And then as the week went on, it was kind of less and less. And Alexis had asked me for June's color in worsted weight. So I dyed up a pot of this in worsted weight, and she only wanted one skein. So there are 4 other skeins that are on the website if you want this in worsted. I'm only gonna do those 4. But that skein hasn't been touched. And I dyed more yarn for Nancy, enough to knit 1 foot. But you know, you have to do that as a mom in good faith. Like you have to, because I knew that's probably what would happen, but in good faith, you have to say, I believe in you. I think you're gonna knit the thing, or in this case, crochet the thing. And if you don't, that's fine. You know, that yarn can sit and wait for you, but. All right, knitters, this has gone on way longer than I expected. Some weeks are just like that. I hope you have an amazing week, and I'm so excited. Post along, July, fun stuff coming. And send me a knitting story. Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com. I do not have one for next week, so send me one. Okay, bye knitters. For this podcast, I'm also Knitty McPurly on Instagram.